Well, we had a really good dinner, didn't we, out here with these guys?
Man, yeah.
We had some eggplant rollatini and some good fucking wine. That's right. Just
right.
like the bottle says, good fucking wine.
Yes.
I can't wait to get some of this home and give my family some good fucking wine. It's a lot of fun. And this bottle used to be full, but me and Al Stone, we took care of this one.
Yeah, before.
Yeah. This is good fucking wine, people. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
2025 Hall of Fame inductees are coming through, and I wanted both of you guys to weigh in on it. So I'm going to ask both you and John, give us your thoughts. All right, the first one up, Triple H.
John, you want to go first?
Well, this would be the second induction for Triple H. He went in with his buddies for the team they had, and now he's going in as an individual. My thoughts is I think that Paul Levesque, it's a well-deserved Hall of Fame. I think he's deserving of the honor. I don't know what else you can say about the man. He's been through it. He understands it. I guess it's a good thing.
To me, he was the cornerstone of the Attitude Era because with Stone Cold's injuries and The Rock going off to Hollywood, True Taker was there, but Triple H was the one getting the most airtime, and there was great reasons for that. He was obviously entwined in the family. Obviously, that was going on, which he's very successfully managed to morph into Triple H, the executive, and the guy who calls the shots. I think he's done an incredible job. Mike, as we said earlier tonight on ESPN Radio down here in Florida, that, it's in good hands with Triple H. He's one of the all-time great in-ring workers as far as I'm concerned. No, he's not Bret Hart. And before you all get up and on, it's about storytelling. And Triple H carried the company on his physical back the most during the Attitude Era. Props to him, and it's a landslide. He deserves every last bit of it.
All right, here's a tough one for me, but you guys weigh in. Michelle McCool.
Boo. Boo. I'm sorry, John. I got to go first. Boo. Absolutely not. Obviously, being married to Taker, come on, let's just do the math here. She's getting in because Taker's pushing. And by the way, recently, there's some show that, Mike, you're probably aware of. Mickey James got tossed off it so Michelle McCool can be on it now, one of their reality shows.
I did not know that. That's hilarious.
Mickey James has been discarded. Here comes Michelle McCool. Now, I'm sorry. Obviously,
Wow.
I love, respect, and adore The Undertaker, and I dig what I've seen of him as a person. I think he's a very cool guy. But come on, Michelle McCool's not a Hall of Famer. Can we stop this? Ivan Koloff is doing 360s in his grave. Demolition, what the heck, And yeah, it is about some of the other guys who should be in. And yeah, it's about the fact that she shouldn't be in regardless. Just like Queen Charmel, just like Tori Wilson, just like, all right, maybe I'll give you Stacy Keebler, but I'm not giving you the rest of them. I'm not doing it. John, please help me out here before my pulse just shoots through my wrist, please.
I think John's a fan. I'm ready for it.
Oh, here we go. Go ahead, John. Make me nauseous. Hit it.
I'm not going to make it nauseous at all. Okay. I just believe that, I don't think there's any influence there. I think the fact is that you got to see this because my friend is over here, the Pharaoh, and he's going, if it wasn't for Taker, she wouldn't be anywhere or anything.
No, I didn't say that. I just said that he's getting a big-time boost from the dead man. Go on.
Well, wait a second. You just told me the only reason she's in is because Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, is her husband, and he's making sure she gets in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, I bet Mickey James would agree with me.
Listen, I'm going with Jimmy on this, John. I'm sorry, but go ahead. We didn't even give you a chance to say what you feel about Michelle McCool.
No,
you know what? I don't see prejudice anywhere, and you know what? I think people have a tendency to dig too deep with this. I'm assuming, and there are people who have been in the Hall of Fame that I would sit back and say to you, what? Why? There are others that should be there. But apparently, somebody felt that this young lady was worthy of recognition. End of story.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States, John Cena Sr. I mean, you couldn't have skated around this question if you had ice skates on. Now I'm starting to see why your
No,
son,
I don't think
your son has crushed every fan like myself. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that in a minute. How about the natural disasters? John, you open up with this one.
Well, let's see. If I remember those guys, was earthquake and typhoon? Is that it?
Yes, sir.
You can see that. Those two guys were pretty funny. They were pretty good. They did a good job. Once again, I sit back and say, maybe you all look at it and say, what the hell did they do for the business? But they went out and broke their ass. They went out and did what they had to do. They did a good deed. They did it well. And so once again, I'm trying to give everybody the benefit of the doubt in saying, I am assuming that you get into the Hall of Fame because you've done something that makes you worthy to be there. These two men certainly went out there and did that.
If I could go before you, Jimmy, I'll say I'm a fan of the natural disasters. I think they're deserving. I enjoyed their tenure in the WWE. I enjoyed them both as individuals. I have absolutely no problem with this. Do I think maybe some other tag teams are more deserving? Of course, but that's just my thoughts. But for me, this is a definite. Jimmy?
Okay. When you talk about a Hall of Fame that does not have the Midnight Express in it, and then tells me with a straight face that the natural disasters are Hall of Fame worthy, I laugh. Now, as far as Earthquake goes, Earthquake should be in the Hall of Fame as Earthquake, because Earthquake was great. And he was great for a sustained period of time, and he was definitely a great villain for Hogan. All right, so as an individual, if I'm being responsible with my vote, then I would be pushing for Earthquake as an individual to be in the Hall of Fame because I think he is one. As far as the tag team goes, they were great together. Don't get me wrong, but they were a blip on the radar, okay? And we both know that, Mike. They were a blip on the radar. This is not Demolition. This is not even the Powers of Pain with Warlord and Barbarian. It's not. So to me, I don't like the revisionist history. Am I happy for them? Yes. Do I really think it's a stain on the Hall of Fame? No. It's not one of those elections that I'm really, really, truly upset about, like a Queen Charmel, or as we're saying with Michelle McCool. It's all right to have an opinion as fans, and that's my opinion, basically. I don't feel that they're worthy of the Hall of Fame. I think that Earthquake is as an individual.
All right, just announced late yesterday.
Yeah.
The total package. Lex Luger is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. John, you want to reach in on Lex Luger? What did you think he meant to the pro wrestling industry?
I think that's a tough one because when you look at everything that's happened, there's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, a man that found God. Lost, but found. Does Lex Luger deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? They did everything they could with that kid to try to put him over, but it just didn't work. It just didn't work. He did his best. He tried his best, but for some reason, for whatever reason, it just didn't work. Is he worthy of Hall of Fame? Once again, I stand in my original statement. Whoever's making these decisions has found enough reason to believe that this person deserves a position of honor, and that's being in the Hall of Fame. Certainly, he's made enough sacrifices in life, and certainly in the wrestling business, maybe to deserve that spot.
Hard question for you, though, John. Considering what went down with Miss Elizabeth, do you think that's something that should be put into consideration, being a publicly traded company? Not that he murdered her, I'm not saying that, but he certainly had involvement or contributed to the passing of her. So do you feel that something like a publicly traded company should be thinking about that before they do something like this? I know they've done it to China because of her porn career as an individual. I know they put her in as DX, but what are your thoughts here?
Well, Luger, if you read the dirt sheets, admitted that he had a situation with Miss Elizabeth. We all have sins. We all have skeletons in our closet. I guess we got to learn to forgive to be forgiven. I don't know the real answer to that. I really don't. I would think that would play, if I were on the board making a decision, I would say personally that would have to enter into my decision. Because if we're going to do it to one, we've got to do it to all across the board. What's fair is fair. And in this case, I guess I'll end it on this. It's questionable.
Jimmy.
It's interesting. I know for a fact that Lex was very disrespectful towards this business when he came in. I know that Wahoo did not care for him whatsoever. He thought he was a punk ass. He thought he was a punk. He had a bad attitude towards the business. Obviously, Brody didn't care for him and started beating on his ass, and that's why Lex ran away. So Lex had a problem coming in, but I will say this. In the end, Lex Luger is a landslide Hall of Famer. The reasons I say that is that in WCW, Lex Luger did work. It worked very well. Lex Luger was a main eventer, world champion multiple times, part of the Horsemen. It worked great for Lex in the WCW NWA days. It worked great for him. It worked so great that everything John said about him is accurate once he gets to Vince, because Vince wanted him. Vince was like, oh man, gave him the ultimate push, just like John, aforementioned, and it didn't work. It didn't work because nobody wanted another Captain America at that point. They had to shift gears, and eventually Vince shifted gears to Brett and Shawn, But it was the Hogan thing. It was not easy to get out of Hogan's shadow, period. And Vince's biggest mistake was just to try to make him, as he's said 1,000 times, the next Hogan. There was no next Hogan. History is spoken. There's no such thing. You'll never have another Hogan, okay? So that was the problem that Lex dealt with when he was in the WWE. But to me, if you look at his body of work and his career, guy was a main event world champion, chiseled to no end. His conditioning was insane. Agreed, right, guys? I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
This is long overdue, in my opinion, and I'm glad they're doing it, and I'm glad that he's alive to see it, because
Amen.
What you spoke about, sure, it's bad. But at least he's apologized about it, and he certainly hasn't hit anything as far as I can tell.
I'm on, again, as a wrestler in his wrestling career and what he was known for, yes, Hall of Famer. But, going to the facts that the whole Miss Elizabeth situation, and then the fact that he just was, excuse my language, a dick.
Right.
Right? Period.
Right. Yeah,
to fans,
absolutely.
to other wrestlers, whatever. I mean,
right.
I again, who am I to make the judgment? But I kind of feel like John, in a little way, like it's kind of borderline for me. It's like, it's funny. Natural disasters, I have an easier time putting them in than I do Lex Luger, to be honest.
What's incredibly sad, and no one's even saying this, the one who's not in the Hall of Fame that should be in the Hall of Fame is Elizabeth.
I was going to say that. Absolutely.
That's getting lost here. The irony that Lex is going to go in, and in a year where we're discussing this gets back to my nerdism. Sorry, John, but as a wrestling fan, Michelle McCool or Miss Elizabeth, it's like a no-brainer.
I agree.
So that to me is very sad that Elizabeth should be inducted right now. This class.
I wouldn't argue.
And let Lex make the tribute to her. God forbid we step outside our negative box and allow something like beautiful like that to happen, right, John?
I agree with you 100% on that one.
Good conversations, guys, but now it's going to get a little, I'm a little upset, John. We were talking earlier. I'm a huge fan of your son. What he's done for wrestling, what he's done for children, right? And I always knew that at some point he might turn heel for whatever reason, but I always thought he was going to be better than that, right? So I was shocked. I was hurt on Saturday night. I didn't cry, but I'm going to play a video of a grown man crying. And